know that 1 million Earths can fit inside the sun? Are you a space lover? Do you want to know the amazing stories of space? Cosmoscube is here. Now listen to the podcast for free on Cosmoscube. Now available on Spotify.
Hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cosmoscube. I hope you are having a great day from wherever you are listening. I welcome all the space lovers, stargazers, and astronomers and aspiring astronauts as well. It's not only for these people, all the other people who are curious and listening to this podcast, I heartily welcome you all because curiosity of our mind never ends. We always want to know more and more about our universe, right? So we put up all our efforts, get knowledge about all these things. So in today's podcast, I'm going to be telling you about the second week events in the month of March in this year. As I have told in the podcast before this also, that March is having a lot of events which are very beautiful to observe in the night sky, and most of these events are happening in the early morning. I hope you all might have observed some of the events in the first week, and also let me know how many of you found all the 110 Messier objects that I mentioned about. So this week too holds up a lot of events that are very good to observe and which are rarely occurring. It is a great one to observe all this. Let us start the podcast here and let us discuss about what all events are happening in the second week of March. You're listening to Cosmoscube and I am your host Priyanka. So let us explore the events of March second week together. It is time up to gear up with your telescopes and just hit into your balconies and your outskirts. So as we know that March is a great month for stargazing. So all the stargazers are very lucky in this month. So the second week of March, that is, I'm gonna start off from the 7th of March to the 13th of March. So let us take the first day. On 7th of March, we have a lunar occultation of the planet Uranus. What are lunar occultations? Let us understand first, what does lunar occultation mean? I would like to tell that occultations, first of all, happens when a certain object passes in front of another object. I mean to say like an object in an universe, like suppose a moon or a planet which passes in front of another object. The another object may be a star or another planet. This observation can be done through a perspective. A good example for this occultation is the example of a solar eclipse. When the moon passes in front of the sun and it blocks the light partially or completely. So the sun is said to be ellipsed or oculated, right? We call it a solar eclipse. Another great example is the lunar eclipse. Here I would like to emphasize that these occultations not only take place on the earth. If you observe from the moon, like imagine that you are standing on the surface of the moon. So from there itself, you can see another eclipses happening. I would like to give you a nice example. Like when Apollo 12 astronauts were returning from their mission, they saw some eclipse. They flew through the Earth's shadow and they saw a solar eclipse from the moon on their way. And this was in the year 1969. So this is a good example where from our perspective, we can see eclipses from anywhere in the universe. From the Earth, we can see the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. And like this way, we can see different eclipses from different planets or different part of the universe. So in lunar occultations, first of all, we know that the path of the moon is elliptical, goes around the earth in an elliptical path. This path represents a plane in which the solar system is existing, right? All the planets and all are revolving around the sun in an elliptical path. When this revolution in elliptical path is taking place, the moon might sometimes pass in front of distant planets and stars from our perspective. Like from our perspective, if we observe, the moon is passing through another sun in the universe or another bright planet in the universe. Certain phenomenon is called as the lunar occultation. The lunar occulation of Uranus. This occulation will be happening of the moon and the Uranus. That is, the moon will pass in front of the planet Uranus. And this is called as a lunar occulation of Uranus. People who are living in South Pacific and for a small number of islands which are present in the east of New Zealand, you will have a great opportunity to witness this phenomenon. And don't worry, for the rest of us living in other parts of the world, we will be having such kind of occultations in the future months too. I will let you know about all the occultations in the coming podcast. And also you would be surprised to know that there are still 8 more occultations which will be happening in this year. So just keep waiting for the new ones to come up. Next we have is the event that is on 8th of March. So we have a rocket launch here. I had already told you about the launch which had happened by the SpaceX on 3rd of March this year, right? So it was regarding the launch of Falcon 9, which was having a Starlink group which consisted of 47 satellites which are going to establish the internet connectivity around all the parts of the world. So similar to this launch, there is another group of satellites that will be launched in this week. So on 8th of March, the Falcon 9 Block 5 launch will be happening, which will send 47 Starlinks, which are the satellites of internet constellations which is operated by the SpaceX. And this will provide satellite internet and the access to cover most of the area around the world. Also, this satellite group will be launched in the lower Earth orbit, and this will be launched from the location of Cape Canaveral. So be ready to witness this launch, as this is a great launch, I would say, because it already has sent one of the groups and those are doing well, and this is another group. So the both groups will establish a strong internet connections throughout the world, and it will cover most of the area around the world. And this is how the space race is increasing, and we cannot see like a space race, but it is an advantage to everyone who are living in the world. This will not only increase the communication between persons standing from the North Pole to South Pole or the extreme east to extreme west of the world. Everyone can communicate very easily by these technologies, and these advancements which are happening, we should be really thankful of, because this is how we will be connecting to so many people around the world. Like a person who is a stranger to us at this moment, he will be or she will be connected to us so closely, like within some seconds. So this technology is leading to great advancement. So all that is wrap up for 8th of March. Now let us move to a birthday of an astronaut, a very important astronaut in the NASA's history and as well as the space history, because this astronaut is not only the person who went 3 times to space, and he is the only astronaut to have flown in 3 missions. I will tell you about him in a bit. So March is a busy birthday month for all the Apollo astronauts. Out of 38 men of Apollo, 9 of the astronauts are born in the month of March. So 9 of the astronauts who flew Apollo spacecrafts in Earth orbit to the moon and to the Skylab station have birthdays in this month. So in this week, Wallace Chira was born on March 12th. He was an American naval aviator, also a test pilot, and of course a NASA astronaut. What is his contribution to space? What did he do? Let us discuss about this. So in the year 1959, he became one of the 7 astronauts who was chosen for the Project Mercury. Project Mercury was a very advanced technology, we can say, and it led to many research and developments. Project Mercury was first human space flight of the US program, and it was an early highlight of the space race. During this time, there was a space race between Soviet Union and America. The goal of this project was to put first man into the Earth's orbit and to return him back safely before Soviet Union does. Astronaut Valley flew for Mercury Atlas 8 mission, which was a part of Mercury program that has orbited 6 times in Sigma 7 spacecraft around the Earth. This was an incredible mission. At this time, Valley became 5th American and 9th human to travel in space. This is such like a wonderful thing, right? Because it was the first mission to put human in the space, and it was a successful one. His contributions are not over yet. Here comes the next mission, when he achieved first rendezvous, which was a set of orbital maneuvers of the Gemini 6A spacecraft, during which 2 spacecrafts, one of which is often a space station or another spacecraft, arrive along the same orbit and they approach to a very close distance. And this distance approach which astronaut Valley did was approximate of 2 meters, and that is very close for two spacecrafts. So this was an incredible mission and which he successfully completed. And not only this, another one we have is on October 1968, where he commanded Apollo 7, which was a 11-day low Earth orbit shakedown test, 3-man Apollo command, and this was the first crewed launch for Apollo program. This was an incredible achievement and the contribution what Astronaut Valley has done in the space race. I would like to honorably mention that first astronaut to go to the space 3 times, and he is the only astronaut to have flown in these 3 missions, which is the Mercury, the Gemini and the Apollo programs. So just a big applause for him because he has been such an inspiration to so many coming astronauts and the future astronauts to be. Also, I researched about this astronaut very recently when I was researching about this podcast, and by reading his story I was really inspired by the contributions he has done, that he has sacrificed, and how he was able to be a part of 3 missions and he didn't give up on any missions. You can see that the Gemini mission, which was closest approach to another spacecraft, that was a really scary one, right? It was a risk of life, but he had the courage to face it and he completed the mission successfully. So here's what somebody's life gives us, an inspiration to move forward, to dream ahead and to be successful in our own lives. It may be anything of any sort, but we can get inspired by each and every person in our lives. So we should always try to take up all the good parts, we should try to learn the good parts which the other person has, and we should keep going on, and we should never think that we are not worth of anything. We are worth everything. Coming up to the events, on March 12th, we also have the conjunction of Venus and Mars. As I mentioned in the before podcast that there are so many conjunctions happening in this year. Also, in the first week, we had 2 conjunctions. So in this week, we have the conjunction between the planets Venus and the Mars. So we can now clearly tell that Venus and Mars are still hanging out together, because in the previous week we had seen a conjunction between Venus and Mars too. They have not yet left their togetherness yet. They are still hanging out in the morning sky. If you missed to spot out that event, you could come back to this event and you can spot this event right now. It will be happening in the morning of the March 12th, and they will be in the conjunction rising together before the sun will follow them after 2 hours. So it will be a early morning conjunction, so just gear up with your telescopes and binoculars to witness this one, because you have got another chance. The people who have not witnessed the previous week's conjunction, you can just go through this one. So you can look at the pair at 3 degrees and 59 seconds apart. Also, along with this, Jupiter and Saturn will be in the same general part in the southern part of the sky. You can just go through and observe these planets too. For reference, you can use many of the applications that are available online in your Play Store. So you can just download them, install them, and you can just map it up yourself and find out the planets. So this will be a great observation for you all, because in the same night you will be able to see so many things and phenomena occurring together. So on this note, let us end the podcast here. These were all the events that will be happening in the second week of March. I will be back with another week events in the next week. Till then, keep exploring and keep finding out new stuff and reading up new stuff, and keep your mind curious. This curiosity never ends.